I'm Ryan. I'm a science teacher.
I'm Cheryl, and I slept through science.
Each episode will tackle a science question you may have learned in school, but can't quite remember or fully explain.
And I'll take the risk of asking the dumb questions so that we can all understand the science we slept through.
The bell has rung. Let's get started. Welcome to Lesson 20. We are in our biology unit. Cheryl, what wonderful biology question do you have today?
Ryan, today I think we should just hang out and eat some candy.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Because that's a fun little school thing, right? When your teacher just randomly throws out candy when you're answering questions, maybe. I don't know why. I felt like sometimes there was candy in school and it was a really big deal. But here's the really exciting thing.
Okay.
One of my favorite candies is Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, me too.
Because peanut butter and chocolate,
the best combination ever.
Yes.
Yes.
But I have very good news for you, Ryan.
Okay.
They now are also organic.
Okay.
So big deal. Now they're safe for you. They're probably good for you.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah. They're just they're organic. I don't know if they're gluten-free or not, but they're organic. So I don't know if you can find them at Whole Foods now or what, but
well, if it's organic, it's clearly a whole food, and it means that it's good for me and I should just eat Reese's peanut butter cups, right?
Yeah, they're organic.
All right, then what's the question embedded in this here? Or are we just going to eat Reese's for the whole lesson?
I think we should just eat Reese's for the whole lesson.
I'm not going to complain.
And maybe talk about, organic things as long as we're at it.
Organic things?
Yes.
Specifically food? Well,
I want to know, what's this whole deal with organic things? And I've heard bits and pieces of maybe what you could say is borderline a rant or would eventually become a rant from you about organic things. And I don't know if I should or not, but I'm interested in going down that road a little bit.
Okay.
And I just thought I can tell you what I know about organic foods and stuff, but I would love to hear it from a science point of view.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started there with what do you know about organic food?
Okay. Well, I know that they are free of harmful pesticides. I feel like I hear the word chemicals a lot, but I feel like that's more when people claim things about all natural foods. So I feel like the organic thing, people are then they don't have pesticides. And then separate from that, I think people say talk about wanting things to be all natural. And then they talk about that's free of chemicals. So I feel like those are kind of two different worlds. But if we're focusing on the organic one, I know that in order to actually claim on your packaging that you're organic with, I think some sort of the certification means that you have to pay to, I believe, probably have your farm checked out and prove that you're organic. I also know that all foods used to be organic a long time ago, before pesticides were being used, everything was organic. And it's just a very popular word. Feel like health nuts are really into it. I feel like pesticides have a terrible rap now. My mom likes to buy organic carrots specifically. And she says, if I'm going to buy one thing organic, it might as well be the thing where I'm eating its skin, as opposed to a banana or an orange or something that you would peel and not eat the part that maybe is getting sprayed by a pesticide. But yeah, it's kind of a big deal in the food world. Organic foods. have the funniest face right now because you're trying to refrain from I don't know what yet.
Seems like you know a fair amount about organic food so far.
Uh-huh.
Let's see where we can go from here.
Okay.
Based on what you've shared, we've got a lot to talk about.
Oh boy. We're going to have to talk about Reese's and Kit Kats.
Snickers,
And, yep,
Butterfinger, all
Now
of them.
and Laters.
Yeah, all sorts of
Mhm.
things that we have to talk about today. Exactly. You've got it.
Great.
I think the place that's the best to start is to talk about what the word organic does and doesn't mean.
Okay.
And the reason that I roll my eyes and may or may not go on a rant sometimes is because the word organic has a very specific scientific meaning. And it is not the meaning that is being used by the food and drink industry. I don't know if that's the name of the industry or not, but whatever.
The FDA, maybe?
And the
Food and Drug.
USDA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Yep. It's not the same thing. In science, anything is considered organic. For example, you can take an organic chemistry class in college.
Okay.
If it has carbon in it, which means you are organic. If that door behind you is wood, it's organic. Most things are made of carbon. There are things that aren't, like rocks, but coal,
Okay.
charcoal, that would be organic, made of carbon. All of our food, every single thing in our food, organic. Because it's
Wow.
made of carbon. It's all made of carbon.
So I have an 100% organic diet?
You do have a 100% organic. Well, I suppose if you consider liquids, water is not organic. There's no carbon in it.
Yikes. Okay.
But if you wanted
right.
to be all organic in your liquids, just drink alcohol all the time.
Oh, great. I can do that. That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
That's
organic.
super healthy. Yep. Yep. That's the scientific meaning. That is not the meaning that people at all are even probably aware of when they talk about it in relation to food.
No, not at all.
And it has taken on a persona that you already mentioned of if it's organic, it's good for you.
Yes.
And if it's not organic, it's bad for you.
Yeah.
And I have thoughts about that.
Okay.
But we'll get to those.
Okay.
Does that part make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay. So that's the scientific meaning of organic. Very, very different.
So all Reese's are organic.
Exactly.
Wow.
Chocolate is very organic.
Oh, I love that.
Then what does organic mean in the food industry if it doesn't mean just made of carbon? You already referenced pesticide free. That is a component of it. Is no pesticides are used, not just on the food, but on the soil or nearby. The regulations about what it means to be organic or not in the United States, I can't talk about any other country. I've just looked at the stuff in the United States, are regulated by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and the USDA, US Department of Agriculture. Those two kind of, and I'm sure there is very clearly delineated differences. I just don't know what they are as much. They have very exhaustive lists of things that you can and can't use in order to be counted as organic.
Okay.
And what might surprise you is there's a big long list of things that we would consider natural, non-man-made things that are not allowed to be used and still be considered organic.
Oh.
Also, there is a big long list of synthetic things, non-natural things that you can use and still be considered organic.
Weird.
It's all very, very specific. I will link to a bunch of different things in our show description to some of these websites that have the big long lists in case people are interested. But just to give you an idea, some of the synthetic substances that are allowed for use are calcium hypochlorite. That sounds like an organic substance, doesn't it? Supernatural sounding. Hypochlorous acid. Hydrogen peroxide. Ozone gas.
Weird.
Ammonium carbonate. Aqueous potassium silicate. There's a whole list of things that oftentimes when people talk about being organic or natural, they, read an ingredients list and it's all things that
Yes.
what it is.
Yep, I hear
That's
that
often,
a lot. Yeah.
Yep, things that people use for that. Not necessarily true.
Interesting.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean each of those things can be in the food itself. Some of these things can be used for very specific purposes, like pesticides or disinfectants or things like that, that you're allowed to use. Some of them, you can use them in pest control, like to control rats as bait, but can't be within X number of feet of the actual food that's being produced. Things like that. It doesn't mean that all of these things can necessarily be in the food itself, but it's very specific rules about what can and can't be used in order to be counted as organic, which I just find incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
Also, some of the things that are natural, they call them non-synthetic, that are not allowed to be used are things like, arsenic. What do you know about arsenic, Cheryl?
It's poison.
It's poison, but guess what? It's all natural. It is. It's completely 100% natural and completely and 100% deadly.
Is it also organic?
Well, no. That's the whole point. You can't use arsenic and still be considered organic, even though it is natural.
Interesting. Okay.
The designation of organic is very complicated. It's not as simple as people make it out to be. Oh, yeah, it's organic, therefore it's better for you. And maybe you might be able to make that argument that in some cases, if something's organic, but that gets to these, you go back to those pesticides, and people have this idea that pesticides are bad for you and it's terrible and we shouldn't use them. And why did we ever start using them in the first place? And all of these things. There is some legitimacy to pesticides are literally toxic. That's the purpose, is to kill pests like insects, fungus, mold, things like that. Why do we try and kill insects, fungus, and mold?
Because we don't want to consume them.
Why not?
Well, see, the insects thing, I mean, insects have protein in them. So, like, maybe we want to eat an insect or two. I mean, people are eating crickets these days. So,
Sure.
A fungus and mold, I'm assuming, are harmful to our bodies.
Yeah. It's things that make us sick. And even some of those insects can carry diseases and things that maybe the insect themselves are not a problem. But yeah, that's why we started using them in the first place, was actually to make us more healthy, not less healthy.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that we always made the best choices and picked things that didn't also make us sick in different ways? No, not necessarily. As humanity, we make mistakes. We don't always do things the right way. But we've learned over time what things work and what things don't work, and how these different things work, how they affect us, and better ways and better technologies for doing those things, all sorts of things to try and keep pests away. But there is a school of thought that says all pesticides are bad for you. Don't use them.
Yeah.
You had the example of the carrots.
Yes.
And this idea of, well, if you're going to have stuff on it, I'd rather it be on something that I can peel off and then I don't eat it at all, as opposed to a carrot. I'd rather have that be organic because then I know there's no pesticides being used.
Yeah.
Again, there's varying schools of thoughts on this, but the use of pesticides are very strictly regulated, whether or not it is an organic product for all food. the USDA has very specific and very strict rules on amounts, types, and they test all the way along the whole process. A pesticide could be used on a food, a crop, while it's being grown. By the time it makes it to the grocery store, most of that pesticide is no longer on that food. Because it's been handled, it's been touched, it's been washed, it's been in the sunlight. Sometimes sunlight breaks down a pesticide. Some pesticides just don't last very long. They break down into other things that are harmless. By the time it gets to you, the amount of pesticides, if there's any that are there, are well below anything that, as far as we know, cause any sort of major health effects.
Interesting.
Now, there are people who don't trust that, people who think the agencies that are doing the testing have ulterior motives, and that's a whole nother layer that I am not going to get into. And whether that is legit or not, again, people make their own decisions. But if we take the USDA at its word, even with pesticides, they're safe. And there are things where anything in too big of an amount is toxic. Water in too big of an amount. If you drink too much water, it can kill you. And yet we don't call water toxic.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We have this
chlorine in a swimming pool.
Exactly. There are things that make sense in certain amounts, in certain contexts. I am not an agricultural expert. I don't know which pesticides or which substances are or are not appropriate or whatever. But I also know that it's not this simple thing that all pesticides are evil and we need to stop using them right now because they're all going to kill us. Very few things are that simple and that black and white.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Is this making sense so far?
It is, yes.
Am I ranty at the moment?
I mean, not really. You're actually pretty controlled right now.
Okay.
So.
I'm trying to be good. The last piece that you sort of talked about that also goes along with this is the label or the sticker that says USDA certified organic.
Yes.
And you talked about having to be a certification and they have to pay for it and there are inspections. All those things are true.
Yeah, I've heard that's actually one of the reasons why organic things cost more is because covering the expenses of those inspections and everything.
I think that is a component. Can you also charge more because it sounds like it's better? Yes.
Definitely.
Where along that spectrum is the actual cost? I don't know. But yes, they do. If you are running an organic farm, you have to meet more stringent requirements. They're inspected, I believe it's once a year. They have an inspection. And again, it's not just the food, it's everything all around, and the soil and the machines that they use for harvesting. All of that stuff has to follow all of the different rules that are listed there. What I found interesting is there are 4 basic types of labels, and they each mean something a little bit different.
Oh, interesting.
There's 100% organic, which I don't feel like I see hardly ever.
No.
I don't know if you've seen that one.
I'm sure I have, but I haven't noticed it.
No, and that one is a product that contains 100% organic ingredients.
So the ingredients themselves are
all the parts
organic.
that go into it. And it, you know, if it's rice, for example, there's not like there's ingredients in the rice.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100% organic. Everything about it was organic. All the things that went into making it, growing it, all that stuff.
So is that your favorite label because you're like, yeah, that's true.
Correct. That is organic. The second one is organic. And that's the one I think I see more often.
Okay.
That one is any product that contains a minimum of 95% organic ingredients.
Oh, okay.
But up to 5% of the ingredients may be non-organic agricultural products or non-agricultural products that are on a particular list.
Oh, interesting.
So it's mostly organic, but not completely organic. And they don't have to tell you which things they are or aren't. Then there's made with organic blank. And
like made with organic sugar.
Something like
things
that.
like that. Yeah.
And for that one, the product has to contain at least 70% organically produced ingredients, with a number of other constraints and things about what can be in that other 30%.
Gotcha.
But again, not all organic, but more organic, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, I think, more what you were saying, is a specific organic ingredient listing.
Oh, okay.
Made with organic sugar.
Mm-hmm.
That's one ingredient. Oh, the sugar was organic. The rest of them may or may not be.
Mm-hmm.
So those specific ingredients have can follow whatever those are, but the whole product probably has less than 70% organic contents. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That's the summary of what it means or doesn't mean in order to be organic.
Good job, Ryan.
Thank you.
That was a good little like class report you just did, I feel like.
I did, didn't I? I did a little research. I'm going to cite my sources.
Yeah, like I feel like I could have seen like a trifold poster about this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Some bubble letters, all of that.
And just like a trifold poster and bubble letters, it's time for a quiz.
But how is that related to the poster?
Because usually you have a quiz later.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair. Okay.
Someone did a presentation and now you're quizzed on it.
Yeah.
And because it's your favorite part of our whole
it
episode.
sure is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Question number 1. What does organic mean scientifically?
It means that it contains carbon.
Yep.
Pretty much like all life.
Yes.
Right?
All life that we know of. Yes. We are
It's
considered
organic.
carbon-based life forms. We think it's possible there may be life based on other things like silicon, but we've never observed it. We have no evidence to say that that is the case.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then all food scientifically is organic.
Because, yeah, everything that we eat was alive at one point.
True. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. That's why remember, that's why Reese's is organic and we should eat it.
Exactly. Yep.
Next question. What is required? And you don't have to list everything, but the things you can remember. What is required to be certified USDA organic?
There is a list of things you can't use on the crops, and also things you can't have around the crops, like pesticides or other forms of like pest control. And that can be in the soil or sprayed on the crops or just within a certain distance of them.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
You have to have someone come and inspect every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to be sold in Whole Foods.
Right. Yeah. I forgot to mention that one earlier. I'm so glad you brought it up. Next question. What is not required that many people might think is required in order to be considered organic?
Oh, well, I think one is the 100% thing.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I just thought any of them that said any form of organic meant 100%. I thought that was a given. And it reminds me of, I've heard like certain things they can claim has like 0 grams of whatever if it has less than 0.5 because they can round down, which is not exactly what was intended in math when we do rounding. But, so it reminds me of that. So I think that's one thing that people probably think is the case. It isn't. But another one would be, unnatural ingredients or sources or whatever those things are. Forms of pest control, I guess, that are unnatural, or it's like just because it's organic and all natural are like different things. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. And as many of them as you can, what are the 4 types of USDA organic labels?
100% organic. Organic. Contains organic. You had one that had a blank in it. Contains organic something about organic with a blank.
Yeah, made with organic blank. Yeah, same idea.
Well, that was the last one, was the made with organic blank. Oh, last one was like the made with organic sugar or something. Oh, an ingredient. Yeah. So it contains organic and then has an ingredient that is organic.
Yep. Nice job. I'm impressed with that one.
Thanks.
I thought that one would be hard. Last question. This is a personal opinion question, recognizing that there may be other perspectives.
Okay.
Do you think you should be worried about pesticides on your non-organic food? Why or why not?
I mean, personally, no.
Okay.
And I think part of that is there's only so many things I can worry about. And I have to choose them. And it's just not one that I want to worry about, because even when I think about like my food choices and trying to eat healthy, there are just like other priorities I have with healthy eating than that. I wash my produce at home, even. I mean, just with water, but like fairly well. And so, and I mean, whether or not I totally trust the powers that be, or the government or anything like that, it is good knowing that there are people paying attention to, like it's not just like a free for all if it's not organic.
Right.
Or like do whatever you want or spray them to no end, or, things like that, that there are regulations in place that I appreciate. And that the people who are more educated on it and care to pay attention are, because I'm not going to go learn all that stuff and pay attention. But if I have something that's organic, I'm like, oh, cool. And that's generally my reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one item that I buy usually organic. And it's funny because when you talked about carrots and things, I was like, oh, well, mine's dumb. Bananas. And
Why?
the reason is, whether or not it's actually true, and it very well might be the placebo effect, I think they taste better.
Interesting.
I think at one point I couldn't find any bananas that were the regular ones that I wanted, and I bought the organic ones, and I liked the way they tasted better. So I buy organic bananas. It's the only reason.
I mean, there very well might be an effect. Like soil does affect the way things taste.
It does.
So if, I could see that. Yeah.
It could be. It also might be all in my head. I don't really know.
It might be. Yeah. But now I feel like we need to do a Reese's taste test.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have them right here in front of us, and I'm very sorry about that.
Well, we're also not in front of each other. We're across the screen, so that makes that hard too.
I did not mail them to your house in advance or anything, because I actually just saw them today for the first time. But
I do think the next time you see them, you should pick some up.
Okay.
Because I think we could do that as a little test at some point. I'm curious. Ooh,
I know.
We could do a blind taste test.
Oh, well, those are the only way to go, is a blind taste test. Yes.
Yeah. That would be fun. We should do that.
Okay. That sounds good. I have a pop quiz question for you though, Ryan.
Okay.
And just like your last question for me, this is also personal opinion.
Okay.
There's no right and wrong.
Okay.
But is it dark chocolate Reese's or milk chocolate Reese's for you?
I didn't know there was an option.
Have you not had dark chocolate Reese's?
No.
Do you like dark chocolate?
Yes.
Oh, they're so much better. I was going to judge you a little bit. Just at the store sometimes. They also have dark chocolate thin Reese's, which is fun. It's just like little bit
more
of a
peanut
thinner.
butter.
It's a thinner bite altogether. The whole item.
The whole thing is thinner. I see.
It's going to be really good on like a s'more.
Mm-hmm.
And then it feels like you can eat more of them.
Because they're thinner.
You've never tried the dark chocolate ones.
I don't think I've ever seen them. There was once. It was pre-pandemic. That means at least 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had seen, walking through the grocery store, they had a new kind of Reese's, and it was extra peanut butter or something.
So there's a white chocolate.
No,
there's also one that's a peanut butter outside and a peanut butter inside.
It was maybe something like that. And I literally have never seen it again, but I loved it. It was good.
Well, we're going to have to do a whole Reese's taste test then.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I'm on board.
Okay, great. Now I want Reese's.
Me too. Well, I think we're just about out of time for the lesson this week. So why don't you pack up your stuff and get ready for my closing remarks? You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at I Slept Through Science, or on Twitter at Slept Science.
If you have dumb science questions like I do, please send them to us. You can email us at isleptthroughscience@gmail.com, or you can even send us a voice memo and we'll play it on the podcast.
Please rate and review our podcast to tell other people what you think about it, subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode, and share about our podcast on social media.
Thank you to Beth Reed Miller for the artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
The bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you.